Final Fantasy XVI is a better Final Fantasy VII than the remake. I know, let me explain. I'm talking strictly combat, cause yeah, obviously the story of the remake is closer to the original. So my take here is that the combat of Final Fantasy XVI is a better transition of the combat from the original Final Fantasy VII into a more action game. It's not about which game is better, it's about which does Final Fantasy VII better. At first glance it might seem like 7 Remake is closer cause it also have ATB gauge, but it's really just window dressing. How does the combat of Final Fantasy VII OG work? You wait for the ATB gauge to fill, and once it's filled up you choose an attack for each member of your team, and then wait again. Simple, but as you can see really different from both the remake and 16, because both wanted to give something for the player to do while waiting. Which is why the series kinda have turned into an action RPG. Okay, so with that said, let's look at both to see which is more accurate. The remake have a ATB gauge, so you wait your turn to do your most powerful attack, like in the original game, which is a form of rendition of the OG ATB system. But in 16 you also have the same thing in a sense, because your most powerful attack are also linked to some kind of ATB gauge. Your move have to cool down, which serve the same function in gameplay. Then again, the remake have you manage the ATB of your entire party, so this is more accurate, since you have more than one gauge to manage. On the other hand, Final Fantasy XVI have you manage the cooldown of your 3 set of icon ability, which in practice work the same as the ATB of your teammate. So far it's a standstill, but the remake have you manage 3 HP bar and 16 just 1. And you also need ATB to heal yourself, which is more like the OG than how 16 does it. Which is where the remake would win if we only look at the superficial stuff. Because to see how 16 represent a better evolution of the time-based combat, we only need to look at the core appeal and fundamental of the OG 7 and the active time battle system. What is the active time battle exactly? Well, your job is to wait for a gauge to fill. During that time you need to think about your next action, but once it's filled up you need to make your move as fast as you possibly can. Because unlike traditional turn-based combat, the enemy doesn't wait their turn to attack. They wait for their own ATB gauge to fill. So the longer you wait, the more time you waste letting them not only fill their ATB but also stop yours from refilling up. So the optimal playstyle is for you to do your move the fastest you possibly can for it to refill right away, wasting the less time possible. Which is how ATB differ from turn-based combat, putting you on the spot with faster decision to make. Active time battle is all about maximization. In ATB there is no turn in a sense. If you are not doing something with your gauge filled, you are letting the enemy have another attack, which is why it's called active time battle. So how does the remake handle this aspect of ATB? Well, it does it well with your quick action, but the moment you want to do anything other than the 4 chosen move from your control character, you need to enter a menu that stops time around you. And now you have all the time in the world to do your next move. This is literally the opposite of what ATB is supposed to be about. It's everything ATB wanted to stray away from. Which is why the ATB gauge here is only window dressing that look like the original. So what Final Fantasy XVI does on the other hand then, make every move one click away after the cooldown and never stop for you to make your decision. Kinda like this PlayStation 1 game with the blonde dude with the big sword, right? And the action aspect even amplified this decision making element of the combat. The enemy being in constant movement, making the decision you need to make that much faster, since you only have access to your best move after a cooldown. Crowd control, stagger, counter all have their own cooldown, and during their cooldown it's your job to think about the best way to use them when they're ready. And once they're ready you need to use them as fast and with as much precision as you can for it to start to refill again. Sound familiar? The point of ATB was to put the player on the spot to make fast and precise decisions to optimize the damage he can do, and weirdly enough this is exactly what 16 does. The remake does a fantastic job at combining RPG turn-based combat with action RPG, but it literally goes against the entire point of active time battle. Who would have thought a Devil May Cry like Final Fantasy game would be closer to the root of the original than the remake? Well, it's not the perfect transformation of the combat, it still lacks some element like the party management and other stuff, but it's a take that weirdly captured the spirit of the original Final Fantasy VII. Underneath all the explosion, particle effect and air combo, Final Fantasy still live on. And that's pretty damn cool. Now quick, you don't have much time. Subscribe now or those two dudes will attack you.
I'm gonna break your goddamn leg.
Wait, what? Not me, him.
Better start running, boy.
Quick, your TB gauge full. Subscribe before they...
Where we going?
Peace out.
Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to an age when the world felt small. Way back before we blew it all. Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to an age when the world felt small. Way back before we blew it all. Too many things going on, I can't keep track of them all. From people dropping